Okay, welcome. It's Wednesday. We have a lot of catching up to do in Parshas Naso. We missed a couple of days of Rashi, but I hope everyone was able to have an enjoyable Yontif. We're going to do two short little Rashis, or really 1.5 Rashis. They're not technically from the fourth Aliyah, but we are catching up. So they are from, I believe, the second Aliyah. Let's see. Yep, the end of the second Aliyah. So in Parshas Naso, we transition. Last week, we spoke a lot about, at the end of Parshas Bamidbar, the role of Bnei Kahas, one of the families of the Levium, and their service in the Mishkan was primarily to carry the various articles of the Mishkan, which were the holiest. So they carried the Mizbeach, they carried the Shulchan, they carried the Menorah, they carried all the things from the Kodesh area of the Mishkan. In this week's Parsha, we move to the other census of the two other Levium families, Gershon and Merari, not only to the census of those tribes, but also to their service. That's the whole point in counting them in all these parshios, just to count them, to know how many Levium there were to be able to serve in the newly built Mishkan. This census is taking place right after the Mishkan is completed. 1 month later, Mishkan was completed Rosh Chodesh Nisan, as we learned in the beginning of Bamidbar last week. This census takes place in the first of Iyar of that second year after Yetzias Mitzrayim. So now in the count of Bnei Gershon, Bnei Merari, which happens in this Aliyah, at the end it tells us a little bit about their work. It says, Mi ben shloshim shana v'mal ad ben chamishim shana, from 30 to 50. We talked about that last week as well. 30 is when we deem a person to be in the height of their strength, until 50. So as opposed to the regular sense of Bnei Israel for the army, which is 20 and above, this is 30 to 50. We saw that last week. Correlated with the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Yehuda ben Tema, shloshim lekoach, at 30 we gain our strength. So over here too, with Bnei Gershon, Bnei Merari, it's no different than with the Bnei Kahas. It's again the census of 30 to 50 years old. Kol haba, anybody who's coming to do what? La'avod, avodas avodah, va'avodas masa, be'ol moed. To do the work of work, and work of carrying in the Ohel Moed. So it's unclear what work these various words are referring to. La'avod is like the introduction, right? All of those coming la'avod. 30 to 50 are coming la'avod, to work. But what work are they doing? So avodat masa, Rashi says, avodat masa is kemashmao, as it sounds. Avodat masa, the work of carrying. And that's the main task of these families of Levium. So we understand that that's part of their portfolio. They're going to carry various parts of the Mishkan, just like the Bnei Kahas carried various tools and vessels of the Mishkan as well. The question really is, what's avodas avodah, the work of the work? So Rashi says avodas avodah is also quite literal. Hu hashir b'mitzaltim b'kino wrote, shehi avodah la'avodah ha'acheres. They were engaged not in avodah like physical labor, but avodah like the service of God, that was serving the avodah, the actual service of God. So if the Kohanim were engaged in the regular avodah of the Mishkan, so the Levium were doing the avodat avodah, the avodah of the avodah. So the secondary avodah, of the avodah in service of the main show. The main show was the korbanos, and it was the ketores, and it was all the rest of the things that function day to day in the Mishkan. The Levium were the support staff. The Levium were the second in command, so to speak. They also had a role in avoda, not the avoda itself, but the avoda of the avoda. What was that avoda of the avoda? What was the service that enhanced the service? So Rashi says that's the shir. That's the songs that they sang, the instruments that they played. That was the job of Levium in the Mishkan, to accompany the korbanos and to accompany the service with music and song. It speaks, of course, to the power of music and song, and the ability of music and song to shape a whole experience, and how important it is in our spiritual life. I mean, not everybody likes music, and music doesn't touch everybody, and that's okay. But at its core, just from an objective standpoint, we see that is important to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that is included in the service of the way he crafted the Mishkan and the way it is supposed to go. And Levium served that important purpose. So while the Levium aren't categorized as Kohanim in the sense of being engaged in the avoda, they do seem to have an avoda themselves, and their avoda is also called avoda. So it's the same kind of word that's being used, which shows there's not necessarily a total equivalence, but there's some equivalence in terms of their roles, even though the Levium were not actually functioning in terms of making the korbanos and the rest of the actual service in the Mishkan. Hope one day we'll be able to see very soon what it looks like for Kohanim to serve, for Levium to serve, and for all of us to be able to engage in that experience as well. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow, God willing.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Rabbi.
Well, take care.
Bye-bye.